Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you for everyone who's joining us in person. We have a full house here in the room, and thank you to everyone that's joining us online. I'd like to officially call to order the regular monthly business meeting for the Island Transit Board of Directors for August 2nd, 2026. I will take a quick roll call. I see Representative Perkins, Commissioner St. Clair, Councilperson Merrow, Councilperson Zier, Commissioner Bacon. I do not see Commissioner Johnson, but she may be joining us remotely later. And then I'm here, so we do have a quorum met. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the consent agenda?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
A second. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any other feedback, comments, questions, emotional offers, anything? Let's bring these in. Okay, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I missed the approval of the agenda. I apologize, y'all. Everybody had a chance to look at the agenda. Do we have any changes? Comments? May I get a motion for the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as a segment.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Now is the time for public input and comment. This time is reserved for members of the public to address the board of matters of concern and interest or items not scheduled for public hearing. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. We may end or modify the public comment if remarks become disruptive or are not relevant to the business before the board. Matters requiring more extensive input should be submitted in writing. Do we have any public input from the room?
First of all, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate Island Transit. I've been riding for quite a while. And it's been such a blessing. It's a great system and I feel.
Can you share with us your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm Heather Whitmer.
Thank you.
So in the new schedules, I'd like to see included what bus turns into when that's known. Because sometimes, like, I sometimes take the fixed routes, sometimes I take para, but in the mornings, I have a choice of taking on the half hour number 2 or 10. And one of them will turn into the 411. And I always have to call and find out which one's going to turn into the 411. If that kind of information is standardized and all set up already, then if it were put into the schedules, it would be helpful. I know that Skagit does that too. They actually have a column that says turns into at the end. Several of the onboard hand sanitizers don't work. The sound systems on some of the buses are dangerously loud. I know you're required to have a certain decibel level because of the hard of hearing, that's some kind of a legal requirement. But the rest of the world should not be required to go deaf so deaf people can hear. Some of them are very dangerous. I can say, hey, this really hurts. Of course, the drivers, the operators can't do anything about it. But babies, seeing eye dogs, they can't speak up. And basically, a bus should be safe enough for an infant that's newborn to come home from its mother with its mother, if that's how they have to get home from the hospital. So the decibel level should be below whatever is safe for that. For some of us, it's hard to sit sideways on the buses. And I know that they do have buses that have more seats that face forward, that there's actually room for a walker and a person, so it's not all side seat. I don't think Island County has any of those at this point. I know that they do exist. I've seen them with 2 sections or 3 sections that have room for a 2 seats and a walker and still have room for the chairs in front. I have been on a long bus that had to make a hard stop. And while I understand reasons for not putting seatbelts in all the buses, for the long buses, the first row should probably have seatbelts, and also the first row above the upper step of when you have to step up. Because that would not only be a forward, that could be a forward and a tumble. So a seatbelt option, I think, would be helpful there. And then perhaps in the future, extending the times. I know you already have extended it. I don't think that anything went at 7:30. 7 and 7:30, well, 3 years ago, I think that we extended it, and I really appreciate that. Another hour would be nice when that works out. And thank you all again very, very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter, for the comments. Any other comments from in the room? Any comments from online?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, one other
Jenny,
comment.
there are also written comments in the packet.
I was just gonna say that.
Oh, sorry.
I meant to say that first. So we've got 2 public comments that were received that are in the handouts in the packet. Okay, so seeing no other comments online, we'll go ahead and close the public.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question? So I thank you very much for public comment. It's not typical that we get the public coming, and I appreciated both the level of detail in your comments and your being here. What I'm not sure is our protocol is, does the chair or the board respond to any public comments directly to staff? What's our protocol when we get public comment?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, my best answer for that is that we would, one, want to take down all those comments and then get back to the individual themselves. I don't know, is there a protocol, Matt?
No, I don't think there's an established one here, so, but that's certainly something you could adopt or consider, so.
I asked the question because the board's protocols, we always take public, we always respond and bring in staff as needed at the end of the meeting. But I concur that these are excellent questions, excellent issues raised, and to direct them to staff. And perhaps as needed, let the board know the outcome.
Certainly.
Thank you.
I'd also like to suggest, it's really for you, Meg, if you have a committee, a citizens advisory committee, I think we should ask this citizen if she'd be interested in being participating on the citizens advisory.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
We'll get your information before you leave for so meanwhile.
If you like comments.
Providing.
Yeah, and thank you so much. It's really actually great to hear from someone that sits in the seat and has the experience. It's incredibly valuable. And it seems to me that the comments we heard, the lane for that to be addressed is not necessarily policy, it's with the staff. It's operational kinds of things that they can affect. I don't think there are any policy needs. If there's policy needs, you can come back in the next meeting. But it would be interesting to hear what the staff reaction is, and maybe in your director report next month.
Or redirect to what our policy, it is our policy as a board to ensure safety in the buses. It's our policy as a board to approve routes. So I appreciate your comment, but if there are policy considerations that need to come back to the board, those would be the ones that we would consider.
Just as a matter of administration and logistics, much appreciate the comprehensive and detailed comments. It's always nice to have it in writing, so what I'm stating, if you are able to type up a comment or two, because then we have a formal.
We have it in the audience.
Okay, well, that's true, but, okay, roger that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Public hearing for our 6-year 2026-2031 transit development plan. This is the public hearing regarding the plan, and I am going to pass us over to Ms. Thomas.
Yes, each year, Washington State Department of Transportation requires transit agencies to submit an updated transit development plan by September first. As part of that, there is an outreach process. And part of that outreach process requires us to have a public hearing. We have introduced the transit development plan at last month's meeting and had it out in draft form. But at this time, I'll turn it back over to the chair because I don't call the public hearing.
Yeah, I think you need to formally open the public hearing.
Okay.
So you can just simply say the public hearing is open.
Okay, the public hearing is open. Sorry, the way that the agenda is outlined, I didn't see it that way. I apologize.
Then you can call for any public comment.
Do we have any public comment on that 6-year transit development plan?
Close the public hearing.
We usually give them a minute or two.
We call 3 times. Is there?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there any comment?
Is there? any-
Going once.
The last,
Also, the way I would have been interested in hearing what Brad had to say first before we called for public comment, because public might have comment on what Brad had to say.
That's how I thought we were gonna do it. So I apologize. Usually there's the
That's normally how we
presentation
do
part.
it.
And then we open the public hearing during the business item piece of it. So I'm sorry for being
No, no.
confused on that.
We will flip that for next time. That's
Okay.
good feedback we have, so.
Yeah, sorry, yeah,
No,
business
that's-
item number one is me, and the associated memo. Okay, is the public hearing closed then, or do you want me to go ahead and read?
Why don't you keep it open and read it and then,
Comments and
and then ask again if there's any
Yeah,
comment.
thank you.
All right, under business item number one, we have a memo that reviews the public outreach process. And this memo serves to outline all the substantive changes that have occurred to the 2026-2031 Transit Development Plan since the introduction of the initial draft document at the July 10th, 2026 Board of Directors meeting. Staff held 2 public meetings, one on each island, and also presented the Transit Development Plan to the Citizens Advisory Committee. There were no additional substantive comments seeking change. The Citizens Advisory Committee, when they looked at it, their comments were of a generalized nature that they thought it was very positive forward-looking plan. There were a couple of changes that were recommended by staff, and that is we needed to change the island transit staff listings to be updated for hirings and other staff adjustments as of August 2026. And then under the planned operating changes section, it was modified to add the funded solar grant project that was listed in the capital projects, but it was not listed out in the plan of projects. So that was already included, but we just wanted to be thorough. This completes all the changes to the transit development plan from the draft version presented to the board of directors at the July 10th meeting. And at this point, we are open to comments and questions from the board.
In the house.
Any questions, comments, feedback? Don't see anybody online. There needs another comment section.
I would offer that we had 2 public comments this morning that may, again, back to staff, be relevant to the TDP or transit development. Right? One was a comment about Brooks Hill Road, and then the in-person comments today. I don't know whether those are relevant to this, but you can inform us back whether they are.
Sure.
Because they're around operations and some of the things that we included.
Sure.
And continue. There is a Scrivener's error, not a big deal, and I gotta go back and find it, but it was a space between 2 words. Performance, something metrics, one of the pages, help me out here, Brad, and flying backwards, and I left my paperwork at home. When I left too early. Required element 4 has no space between performance and measures. That's a Scrivener's issue, just a typo, no big deal.
I found it.
And then I have a question about, it seemed odd that you would put staffing into a plan because staffing is constantly changing, right? So is that a requirement of the state
It is not. It has been a standard for Island Transit on their inside cover sheet from past plans. The requirement is that we provide an org chart or organizational chart within the plan as of January of the year we're doing the plan, which we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, we approve a plan is out there. It's supposed to be a living document. Things change, but people look at the plan and they go, why isn't that? But
Sure.
and so it's not a substantive change because I don't want to make them at this point in the game, but I did have that question. And, this is not, and just to clarify again in my brain, if you would please, Melinda Adams,
You over there.
you over there, see names, right? This is not our long-range plan, this is our
Correct.
operational plan, because I still have many in my short-term left, long-range visions and hope we can continue certain commitments and visions. And I won't be here, but I'll be happy to come and provide public input.
Excellent, excellent. So
We would expect it.
if I may, I can address your question about the comments that were made today, whether they should be here. Those should be, not provided in the TDP, but addressed specifically with the individual and also,
I didn't mean to.
community advisories. No, that's okay. Committee, and then also the one public comment we had about route changing should go to planning as we look at future,
Yeah.
future service changes.
I would say, yeah, the long range transit plan, that would be included as a common conversation.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
And the differences between, it's really hard to see the nuances between the required transit development plan, which is a 6-year forecast, excuse me, and an annual report of the previous year and a long range plan. Yeah, all these plans out there. So it can be, I would love to have you come back and make public comment in our process.
I was
Absolutely.
referred to last night in a meeting as relentless, so you better be careful.
Okay, well, it does help though, when folks have history, right, with transit as you do on this board.
Well, and I
So
care
it's
deeply
valuable.
that it's equitable across all geographic regions, which is, this has always been important to me. I'm perfectly happy with this. I have a frustration, both as a nonprofit executive and as a commissioner. When we build plans, we approve them and then they go on a shelf. And I'm not the only one in the world who has that frustration. I hope that our planning is a living document that grows and changes with the needs of the organizations and the people we serve. But this is good work, Brad.
Absolutely, and it, you know.
Join the meeting.
When we do grant applications and we are looking to make service changes or any of that, they have to be supported by this plan. So it is a living document and something that we continually update.
Thank you.
You bet.
Sure, Brian.
Sir.
Yeah, with regard to, the 6-year plan and its relationship to the reality that really occurs as the time goes by, I would ask that perhaps Brad or Melinda or whoever, if they have any comments in general about how closely the plans that we prepare coincide with the reality that unfolds on, say, on a 6-year basis. I mean, are there areas where, you know, it's conformity or not compliance, but it matches pretty closely, but other areas where it just, to put it bluntly, like craft shop, we don't really know. And
Well, I think for the most part, it's followed very closely, but put into perspective, we have a pandemic. You know, that alters. Right.
Hypothetically.
And so we can't put into action the plans that we have. Or for example, if we get a new director who maybe wants to do a long range plan before we decide on the propulsion type, whether we're gonna go electric or hydrogen. So perhaps that's gonna deviate, but that's the beauty of These plans, as they're updated annually, and they're reviewed throughout the year as we present grant applications. And then with the long-range plan that we're working on, which is a 20-year forecast, we are looking at that annually, updating it every 5 years to coincide with comprehensive plans around the county.
Yeah.
Townships, yes.
And to complement what Melinda is saying, part of how we have laid out the timeline for different efforts with our long-range transit plan, we will be bringing forward a recommended draft later this year for adoption in the first quarter of next year, which leads right into, we start drafting the transit development plan at the beginning of May, end of April. So that first quarter of next year, we will finish this long-range plan that'll have our prioritized service improvements. And then that rolls right into the transit development plan that you'll adopt next summer. And then every year, right after we adopt the transit development plan, we go into the budget process. So this one will lead to the next, which will lead to the next, and they should be rather supportive of each other.
Perfect. Thank you.
Never
Love
ending
it.
circle.
Thank you, Brad, and Linda.
Are you ready for a motion?
I have just a quick question for Brad. So just a follow-up to kind of everything that everyone's asked. So is it safe to assume, like on page 24, where we've got data-driven fixed and deviated route forecasts, that we assess where we are year to date, year over year,
Yes.
and ask why or why not?
It is, and we should do that, and we projected a little high. Because we don't know what our financial analysis is from the consultants yet. So it's better to say, we're gonna operate 10 vehicles, but then maybe we pull back a little bit. Rather than finding out that we need to operate more than what we have. I mean, there was a little of that went in here, so you'll see this kind of drilled down a little bit and pulled back again, I think, in next year's update. Once we get the financial analysis and they can give us some numbers, but we never want to surprise the board by spending more than people expect. I would rather
Thank you.
put out there and
I don't
then pull back then.
So, Brad, I have a question just for clarity and when you're doing this process. So for the fixed and deviated and the demand response, we have the numbers for 2026. And are those actuals or estimates?
They are year-end projections. So what we did is we took through July,
Okay,
took through June. And then with Optibus, our software, we are very accurate in projecting out what we will operate. Now, it's hard to know at the end, there'll be a little bit of deviation because you never know when you have a breakdown or construction and you lose some revenue hours or miles along the way for those kind of incidents. But this should be very close to our actual at the end of the year.
and so then in the outer line years, are you using a certain percentage on top of that to estimate the future years?
For miles and passenger trips and fuel consumed, yes, that's based on
Okay.
the total vehicle hours. And then the vehicle hours, the way they're increased is by the number of vehicles we expect. It's roughly 3,900 hours to operate a bus on a full year basis, 7 days a week. So you will see roughly 4,000 mile increments in here or 3,500 mile increments because sometimes we're only projecting to operate on weekdays, add a bus for frequency. Sometimes we expect to add a bus 7 days a week because we're covering new areas. So some of that is built in here both ways. So that's where those increments come from.
And so this section is required. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to kind of center my mind here. So this is a requirement from the state that we provide this data, but they don't prescribe the formula in which we figure this out. Correct?
They do not. The only requirement from the state is that 2026 through 2027, so your current year and the next year are fiscally constrained, which means they should be based on the revenue you expect to have. Future years, 2028 and beyond, are projections and they do not have to match your revenue if you didn't want them to.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Isn't
it.
that where you talk about building a Death Star?
Yes. Sometimes, yes, I, use that metaphor when I'm talking to the department heads. I say, if you have a big project, but there's no grant dollars attached to it, you want to build that in the future, you know, the state will not punish us for building the Death Star in year 6, but they will in year 1.
My follow-up to that, and I'm sorry, Commissioner. Keep going. So these are, in my opinion, and I could be completely delusional, are pretty aggressive increases year over year. And so what is the foundation for those projections?
It's over the next 6 years, adding 10 buses to the fixed route system.
So how do we address ridership to match that? Is it something from a marketing perspective? Like, is that all rolled up into these assumptions? And I'm sorry for not asking these questions earlier. It wasn't until I started looking at the numbers again. I just wanted to get clarity on it.
No, those were more geared towards a percentage increase. Some of which are fairly stiff, you know, in the 10 to 15% range, on an annual basis. Transit unfortunately is a little different. We have to do a lot of retail marketing. It's not like where we can advertise there's a new route.
Right.
And we get hordes of people coming in. You know, it can take 2 years before we know what a new route will do for ridership, because the way people's transportation habits change, and they have a tendency to change them slowly. That's a known thing with our industry. So, you know, you put things in, and some of the increases in, you know, later years look to be bigger than some, like, so it's a little crystal ball. And sometimes the crystal ball can be fuzzy and sometimes it can be clear, but it's hard to project ridership. Because you don't know how fast people will adopt to the changes. And right now, we don't even have a list of changes that we know what we're doing. So try to stick with things in the 10% range on an annual basis for the most part. Sometimes I did a little less.
So will we be a year over year 10% increase from last to this year?
I do expect that this year to next year, we will see a substantial increase because we are doubling the frequency on the Route 1. Traditionally in transit, when you double the frequency of a route, you see anywhere from a 30 to 100% increase. Depends on your exact market, population density, and those kind of things. I would expect to see us see a 30 to 50% increase on that route. Now, the Route 1 provides about 35% of our overall system ridership. It is our #1 route ridership producing. So 30 to 50% of 136,000 rides a year, we should see a substantial jump. You know, I'm hoping that we see in the range of, you know, 50 or 60,000 additional rides next year, just from that change. Which for us will be a pretty good year.
Thank you for entertaining the question. I was just looking at the forecast model, just trying to understand. Commissioner St. Clair and then Commissioner Bacon.
Let Commissioner Bacon.
Oh, Commissioner Bacon.
So, thank you for the question, Chair Bright. So we're looking at 10 new buses over.
Potentially, and
Potential.
like I said, we aimed a little high because we haven't gotten the financial analysis in yet from the long range transit plan. That may cause us to be a little more conservative when you see the same document next year.
Yeah, because I think that to go with what you said, we need to be have a pretty good idea of what we're gonna do with all of those new buses. I mean, I would hope that we're going to look at extending service. As this commenter said, I would hope we were gonna look at adding new routes as one of the written comments adds, those sorts of things, but we need to be, before you go expend that kind of dollars, you need to know what you're gonna be doing with those dollars. Hopefully we'll be more clear about that.
Yes, and some of those buses may move modes. We may find out that we want to reserve some of that funding and operational capacity for paratransit, so that we can make sure that we're safeguarding paratransit down the road. And ensuring in future years that we're keeping capacity so that as that ridership increases, we have the ability internally, because we've planned for buses and drivers in future years to come out and work that service.
As we should in this meeting.
Sure. Actually, anybody else?
I already spoke, so I'm gonna go after it. So thank you for.
Just a quick comment is that when doing projections with regard to programs, there's a difference between what we call the strict, most conservative, realistic number, and then there's the method of targeting. And so these projections, I view them having kind of an element of being a target for development and growth, which I favor as a general principle. but it's just, I wanted to be on public record that I understand that these are target numbers in my estimation, as opposed to the most conservative, strict, potential, numbers. That's all I have.
Well, just a clarification, were you saying 10 buses every year?
No.
Okay.
10 buses over 6 years.
Just, sorry,
Oh,
I missed the bus on that one.
Community transit's a
I was gonna say, cause I started thinking maintenance. Wow. All right. Just clarify.
Okay. So, starting first with, and I'm sorry, you started me on this. So my apologies are to you for her getting started. On page 24 through 26, where we do a lot of projection data, and you talk about diesel fuel consumed. I looked at the financial projections of supplies and fuel. So I'm gonna start first with the fuel side of this. And it relates to the long-range plan and the buses and the capital plan going back a few pages to, I believe, 17 and 18. So just for reference for folks. Because, if we continue to see fuel prices accelerate in the way that they have over the last 5 years, and we've seen that trend for a while, that information should inform, and you talk about EV in your capital plan, like in the cutaways, I think, if I remember correctly.
Possibly.
Yeah, we call them rideshare vehicles. That's one where you got, but
That's our van pool program, yes.
yeah, but also, you know, as we've increased our investments in hybrid, I think that making sure we track the expense and just setting aside what may or may not be a political discussion about greenhouse gas emissions, so set that aside, just from a fiduciary. We're seeing such extraordinary fuel costs in all the systems that I want to make sure we put a pin in this conversation of when financially does it make sense for us to convert as much of our fleet as possible. And then I'm gonna say, take this, and technology is evolving, so that's gonna be my segue to the supplies conversation, because you predicted significant increase in supplies, and yet this board has been making increases in increased investments in technology. And those increased investments I've seen in other places where they can really bring down your supply costs because you're able to put so much more online. We've talked about the customer service phone portal that takes away the need to print a bazillion books, for example. It's just a simple example of, so continuing to invest in technology and evolving technology to help us bring our real costs down, I think is something to continue to pay attention to. And so these documents sort of told the story I wanted to tell about those two things, if you will.
The follow-up to that, maybe this is a question for Will, don't we have a long-term contract on our fuel? Who's that?
That's not my side of it.
Oh, that would be Pete.
Oh,
on
yeah.
vacation.
So we do have a contract to run our diesel that gives us some
I
stability.
believe we
around our
buy
costs.
under a state contract, right?
Okay,
I believe,
But
I'm
it's still
sorry.
gone
Yeah.
up because you're.
That's what PS would be. for.
Our new facilities manager, Scott, will probably take a look at that. Next month, I'm not going to put him on the
Your
spot.
cost is increased, because you buy your fuel from the county over, I think you buy your fuel from the county over at our fueling station.
We do.
And so, our base cost has gone up, so your base cost has to have gone. We don't give you more for less, we guarantee it.
And it'll be interesting.
Yes.
Sorry, Alan, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
Levity.
That's okay.
Always a good
We
thing.
like that.
So I have a comment.
Sure.
Director Adams, this is your second TDP, is that right?
With this agency.
With this, of course, with this agency. So, there's one very interesting historical thing happening here. When I joined this board, the TDP was passed in September. And if I'm getting that wrong, or the previous board secretary can correct me, but I believe it was always in September. And the state requirement is that it be completed at the end of August. And so we asked for a day or two forgiveness to get the TDP in. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay, so, we, for the second year in a row, have got this done on
We
time,
meet
on
deadline.
time, without the need for a waiver or whatever forgiveness the state gave us. So this is another way in which this agency moves forward in a positive direction.
I'd like to also, if I could point out, and I'm not sure, our multi-year financial plan, which is on page 26.
Yeah.
This is a different format this year, and I want to compliment Vanya, our finance manager, who worked diligently with the Everett Transit team. And the reason this is different is it actually shows you a beginning balance in 2026, and then based on the estimates, shows you where we sit at the end of 2031. And our previous multi-year financials did not do that. So this gives, although they're estimates, it really helps looking at projecting. So if you notice the beginning balance with a reserve of 73.8 in 2026, by the time you get to 2031 with all the capital expenses and operations, you're down to 52 to 370.
52.
And we're gonna continue to, well, the ending balance.
Oh, she's on a different.
Yeah,
She's on
The end of
27.
page 27.
Yeah, 27.
Yeah,
so, you know, that, and I'm illustrating that because, you see over time how that money erodes. And then as we look at, our future here of our board retreat, and we're looking at doing reserve policies and more accurate reflections of where we're putting that reserve money, that's gonna give people a much clearer picture that we have a plan and where that money's been.
Sure, right, quick comment with regard to the judge. Yes, I'm wanting to support Commissioner Member Seer with regard to the being on time, because I have to deal with constituents regularly who are envious the transit district regarding the resources and so forth. And when I can report to them and accurately say that that the administration, the execution of the operations is tight, and we're making schedules and we're making these improvements, it strengthens my position in dealing with what I would call jealous constituent members. So good on you all for that part.
but I also appreciate spending down our reserves. The money does nothing for the community when it's in the bank. It does something for us county, but it doesn't do anything. And I think that's a good direction, but I did therefore have a question for you for the future, which is, do we have a financial policy on our reserve or fund balance? I love seeing fund balances and being able to back over time. Do we have any financial policies if we were in a crisis situation, where, and Matt, you may know this or not, because you've got the history, where, what is the floor by which we would be willing to spend into reserves? Is there any board policy on what I call the corpus of a fund balance, and how and when you can fall below and do reserves? Does anyone know if that exists?
I don't think we do here.
And I think that that's fine now, because we don't have to worry about that. But if we were ever going back to the place this board was once upon a time.
No, I've got clients where you have some certain metrics that are.
And I strongly recommend this board in the future consider having in our financial policy statements, something around the floor of our reserve.
You know, I take that back. I think there was some that were put in after we got to we might do some searching on that. I think there was.
Because what that allows is the board says, we've hit our reserve is 50 million.
Yeah, and I think
We're
it was,
gonna keep 50
I
million.
think it was based on average month operating expense and
It should,
there was a
like
formula.
6 months, 9 months, whatever it is. So then you can say, we as a board are going to temporarily lift that
Right.
policy because we're in an extraordinary time and we're gonna, but never to take more than 10% or something, whatever the policy is. I think that's worth being explicit, training board members, because you never know when you're in that place, and board policy helps put the brakes on things where we get a little over eager to solve a now problem at the expense of a future problem.
So for our September board retreat, which is a 4-hour retreat, we have 2 hours that are gonna be spent on long range plan. The balance of our time is gonna be spent together. Jenny and I are gonna provide some drafts of reserve policies, and we can include
Talking about that.
emergency planning. So in addition to that, as I've been gathering that information, I've also been gathering all of the previous policies and resolutions that have been passed, so that we can hammer those out in September. Because as we come into this year with the state budget, I'll be meeting with our legislators, talking about our reserve policies. We need to be able to illustrate, not that we have this large reserve, but where the pockets where all those reserves are going to be.
And to James P's conversations with constituents, if we know that our policy is 6 months, 9 months, operating reserves. That at the dollar amount that this organization takes to operate gives the explanation for why we hold $50 million reserves.
We talked about that just last week.
So,
It's very timely.
yeah, thank you.
So just to follow up on that briefly, I think wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner St. or Board Member St. Clair. And in particular now, when quote times are good, we don't want the next board in a crisis to have to figure this out. When times are good, we need to take the time to do this kind of work. So thank you for those.
Any other comments?
Just a brief one, that is right on. We need a reserve policy and it needs to be, well documented, well thought out. I'm just kind of surprised that we don't really have one now.
Well, do we
I
need, we don't,
think you might.
we
have
need,
this
we don't know,
Okay.
we're gonna explore that, yeah. Jenny's on it.
We've been talking about it, so this is
Okay.
very timely.
So Jenny, of the things that you're on, do we have an actual finance policy? Because the reserve piece probably should be part of the actual finance policy.
We have board financial policies. From when I first started, I was given something that had some board.
I'm sure we do. I'm not pulling it off the top of my.
And I think
Okay.
that's why we're trying to revisit and kind of understand what's out there, what's not out there, and
Okay.
align on all of that.
And then you have, and then the policy around board member onboarding, right? So that everybody has that
Sure.
and has that book, and like they do in other books.
Okay, where are we? Are
We need
still
to
on-
make a motion.
We need to make a motion
But I didn't
to.
close the public
We
hearing.
need to close the public
At this
hearing.
time, we're gonna close the public hearing. And now we can have a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 526 of the Island County Public Transportation Benefit Area Corporation Board of Directors accepting the Island Transit 2026-2031 Transit Development Plan as set forth in Exhibit A, attached here to and incorporated herein by this reference, and authorizing the executive director to apply and execute all applicable federal, state, and local grants consistent with the projects approved in the Island Transit 6-year Transit Development Plan 2026 through 2031. My mother would say that's a run-on sentence.
It is.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to approve what she just said. Do we have any other comments, questions, feedback? Anyone online? Okay, hearing none. Motion and a second to approve the Island Transit 2026-2031 Transit Development Plan and 2025 Annual Report. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
success.
Thank you for all the discussion and Brad for your work and team for your work on this. Business item number 2, resolution 626, adopting the purchase card policy effective September 20 September 1, 2026. And that will, Linda to discuss.
Yes, the P card policy replaces our current credit card policy. This policy was drafted by Clark Newber, who is currently handling the updates of all of Island Transit's policies. The policy was reviewed in depth by the executive director, finance manager, and legal review. The policy brings the agency current and in alignment with other transit agencies and government bodies, replacing the use of credit cards. Once adopted by the board, we have the account set up with US Bank. We have the cards on hand and implementation scheduled for September 1, 2026. Employees who are issued cards are required to complete electronic training and competency testing through our Knowledge City training platform.
Questions? Questions?
Good move in the right direction.
Thank you.
Sure, I'd be willing to state the motion. I move to accept resolution number 6, TAC 26, adopting the purchase card, P-card policy, effective September 1, 2026, superseding resolution number 2, TAC 20, and authorizing the executive director to make future regulatory and administrative changes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept resolution number 626. Any other questions or discussion? Anyone online? Jill's not there. I keep forgetting you guys are on there.
Just a quick comment that that's an outstanding idea to increase control of the money and how it's being used. It's just an outstanding idea, outstanding improvement, in my opinion.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 626, adopting the purchase card policy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We will now move to business item number 3, resolution number 726, adopting the travel and reimbursement expense policy. And again, our illustrious executive director.
So this policy partners with our P card policy. And it was also drafted by Clark Newber, extensively reviewed by the executive director, finance manager, and our legal expert. The policy also models those used in government offices today across Washington. Employees will receive a copy of this policy and a procedure outlining the requirements of overnight travel, travel expenses, and reimbursement. Question? Yes, ma'am.
We state in the exhibit A, the mileage rate, which stunned me, by the way, that it's up to 70. I mean, IRS, it's up to 76%, I think 76%, 76 cents. Is it best to state the specific rate or reference something like or whatever?
I
Is this an
I
ongoing
agree with
policy?
you because it stuck out to me as well, and I believe the way the motion is drafted.
That's why I added the make future administrative and
Yeah.
or regulatory administrative changes.
Okay,
That was-
so every year, despite the fact
I
that
would be updating.
in the documents, it specifies and that specific, because we would be updating that rate annually.
Right, yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
So is it better, may I ask a question? Is it better
We come to curiosity.
to refer to the RCW that sets that mileage rate versus requiring me to update that policy? What
I
is
think-
the best decision?
I'm worried if by changing it to referencing the RCW, it becomes a substantive change that requires us to come back and republish.
Yeah, I think this way gives you more flexibility and, yeah.
Okay,
I think it's
Sorry.
important.
no, that's fine.
I
That's
think
what I
it's
think.
important for the amount to be stated. I know that it's
changes.
an administrative change, but for an employee to see that's the amount, I think it's important to publish it that way, but that's just me.
So I move the adopt resolution number 7-26, adopting travel and reimbursable expense policy effective September 1st, 2026, superseding the 2013 employee handbook, section 2.13 for travel expenses and authorizing the executive director to make future regulatory and administrative changes. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 726. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for everybody for all the work you put into these business items. We will move to monthly reports and our executive director.
Sorry, we have number.
AI.
Oh, number 4, see, I got ahead of myself. I apologize, y'all. Chris, you know I would never forget you on purpose.
This is
I
the
apologize.
draft policy not in our packets today.
It was sent out on July 24th.
Yeah, you know, because I've been bothering you,
Yeah,
all
it's been bothering me.
that I've read, I just want to be sure we had a final version.
We can provide that at the meeting.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chris.
No, you're fine.
Items About all things
I'm used to IT.
AI.
And this isn't an approval item. in-
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Yes,
The final draft policy that was sent out, is that the final draft?
that is currently the final
Okay.
draft, currently all changes in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just saying that would be- Okay. We'll get those printed out and you'll have them by the close.
Well, and honestly, we're not approving today, so.
That's.
Yeah, that's.
So don't waste the
forgot.
paper.
Sorry.
Don't waste the paper,
Never
we're
mind.
just talking.
Yeah.
And I'm,
And I'll send that out and it'll have all the track changes removed and it'll be the final draft. So
Perfect.
that'll be your last change.
Jeannie, if you heard that, we don't need them. I know she's listening.
Yes, I heard that. Thank you.
She's.
My bad.
All good. All right, good morning, everyone.
Right.
So today's purpose is to bring the board up to date on all the changes we've made to the policy since May. All 21 comments are logged and visible and as track changes in the document sent out by July 24th. As we just discussed, a fresh copy of that with all the track changes integrated will be sent out later today. My first comment I wanted to say to St. Clair, Commissioner St. Clair. So you made comments earlier about evolving technology and spending more money in technology. AI is a very good proponent for evolving technology that can help streamline a lot of stuff, save time, save money, all that stuff. So next slide. So how we've gotten here, we've had 3 rounds of feedback. Every comment I logged in a spreadsheet and addressed each one individually, resulting in 3 rounds of edits, which made about 18 changes to the policy. Next slide.
go back.
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that we included, because this is one of my comments, that the board is subject to this policy, because I think an early edition, that was a question from.
Yes, in the scope, we added. The board does not currently hold agency issued accounts or access to agency AI tools and is therefore outside the scope of the policy. Should this change, the board is subject to this policy. So if you have an account through Island Transit for any of these products, then you are subject to the policy. Does that answer?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions before I continue? Okay. Next slide. So the round 1 was the initial board review. The biggest changes are mostly wording and precision edits with 2 structural changes. The section 10 attribution and transparency was removed and we strengthened section 4, we are transparent, to make up for that. And then in 5.2, the committee composition was restructured to allow the executive director and the director of IT to form that committee. And I believe we're going to aim for no less than 4, and we try to get all departments involved in that committee. Any questions? Next slide. Rounds 2 and 3 were follow-up refinements. Round 2 confirmed the human in the loop applies agency-wide, so there was a little bit of scoping where it wasn't clear that it applied to everybody. So the human in the loop does apply to everyone, not just operations. Round 3 items were accommodated without reopening the policy structure. They were more answering questions and addressing concerns. Any questions so far? Next slide. And where do we go from here? So unless we want more discussion, we are happy to discuss more. We will return next month after you guys get a chance to review the policy for a action on the policy approval. And we're open for questions.
Risk pool, the risk pool has also issued,
Island County's risk, but they have.
no, the state risk pool is what I'm referring
Oh.
to. The state risk pool has, WCRP has a recommended AI policy that it may be passed by now. And, cause I've been checking, like, I've been checking everywhere. And I think because it's a risk pool, I think it's worth referencing and just making sure we dotted our Ts and crossed our Is.
But this agency uses a different risk pool.
Well, interestingly enough, that's correct. And unfortunately, last month when we lost our quorum, right after that, we had our risk pool here who actually did a presentation on their AI policy.
Exactly what I'm asking
Yeah.
for, and I apologize, I was
No,
one of the
that's
people who
okay.
left early, I will
Well,
go back
I
and
wouldn't
listen.
have known that they were here.
And I
today.
didn't go back and listen,
Um,
that's
yeah.
regardless of which risk
Absolutely.
pool, that's
Yeah.
the, go to the people who try to
Yeah,
make
he
sure.
was actually in the room when we went over.
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
And he even made comment that we have a pretty good foundation in our policy
good.
that matches theirs.
At the
But
end of the
to,
day.
yeah, but to add to your comment, so I went through Washington State's recommendations from the Washington State Technology Governance. I also looked at WISTIP. I looked at Whatcom County, Seattle City, and kind of took a lot of those policies and brought what I liked, the strong suits in those policies in. I would say out of all the policies I've seen, the biggest thing that hits home for me is the human in the loop aspect of it.
Yes.
Because that's really the question that comes into play when we're talking about AI. Are we eliminating people in like releasing documents or everything we do? And no, that is not the intent at all with AI. It is always a tool, just like technology can be a tool, and that human needs to be in that loop.
And my second question, and then I'll shut up. If I recall, just confirm, because I've been reading a lot of these in different contexts. And just got back from a conference where I was lucky to be able to go to a whole section on AI. In ours, we're very clear that if you use AI in generation of any documents, any of your work product, that you must disclose that, correct?
The attribution was to some degree, I don't want to say softened, but we put it in the we are transparent section 4. So I suggest when I send that out, take a close look at section 4 to see if that addresses, but it is the section where we say we are transparent. So if we are required to, we obviously attribute that. If we send out policies and procedures, documentation, public outreach, today, we're with that human in the loop. That's why section 4 really brings home human in the loop. Is that it is reviewed by a person. It cannot just be like AI generated or push out the door.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's like really the employee's responsibility. If you put something out there, you're the one that released that. You can't go, oh, AI generated it and pass the blame, because it really is your responsibility.
5th grade math, check your work, cite your work.
Exactly.
Chris, I have.
Okay, no, you're the chair, go, sure.
And it's my job to make sure.
With regard to legal counsel, okay, the human in the loop, as I've stated before, is necessary and critically important. But I'm very much aware from past experience in government and many other areas that the human in the loop is a human. And therefore, consistent with non-admirable human behavior, we're running up against the deadline and the AI generates this and the senior person responsible for it says, we don't have time, we'll take it. And then they present it back. So what with regard to legal counsel, the liability piece with regard to the human in the loop liability, because people do things. Are you able to give us any guidance or any thought on that part? Because
You draft a good AI policy that sets forth.
And then they're accountable to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and to your point, when we're releasing policies or anything that is being brought to the board, we've had legal review it.
Okay.
And legal's not bouncing it through AI and go, yeah, checks out.
I'm not accusing them of that. I'm not accusing anybody. No, because-
I mean, I've been experimenting with it a lot, and it is flat out wrong. No, it is. I mean, if you just plug in something and you take that first response and don't test it, I've
You
got a
have to go
couple.
to the source documents and double
Yeah, I
check.
got, not to waste meeting time, but I was playing with it once and I said, the question was, do you want a brief ready quote? And I said, yeah, so it gave me a quote and it gave me a site, so I went to my we had a library in our office, I pulled the book. I opened it to the page where it said that quote was, and I said, I have the book on my lap, I'm not seeing it, and said, oh yeah, no, it's a combination of these other cases. And if I would have taken that and taken it for its word and submitted it to a judge, it would have been a bad day.
Well, I'm not accusing anybody of anything.
No, but I'm just saying,
Human nature.
that's why it's crucially important that we do have the human in the loop and you do test it, because.
They're responsible and accountable.
So it's, in my view, when I'm drafting emails or anything, and I use that, it's kind of like asking an assistant to draft something for you, and then you look at it and you're like, yeah, no, I want to change this, yeah, that's great, where'd that come from? And you end up deleting a bunch and just keeping more true to your own voice, because that's really what you're trying to do. So in all of our training, that's what I want to hone in on, is the human in the loop and making things in your voice, not just AI.
As a member of this board, I'm concerned about the liability issues of.
And that's why good policies are.
Leland had a comment.
I have a question about gun safety of vehicles.
Yeah.
Which vehicles?
Are
you talking?
When we're talking about safety of vehicles, AI is prohibited. You can't use AI for any safety systems on a vehicle. AI can't be in control of brakes.
Thank you.
It can't be, no, seriously, it
No,
can't
I
be in
know.
control of the accelerator, it can't be in control of your steering wheel, like it
No,
cannot
thank
be.
No self-driving.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
well, AI is not quite good at voice stuff yet, so, we don't have to address that at this time.
Chris,
But yes, we're not,
Okay.
anything safety sensitive, it is prohibited for being used with.
so, a couple of things, the comments about. Like the organization's policy on approving policy, even though it may have been helped by AI, policies see many hands in this organization, so I have confidence that we're gonna see it hopefully detect, and especially because Matt looks at things as
Yeah.
well. The other, and if I've missed this in the original document, please forgive me, but is there, as a follow-up to Commissioner St. Clair's comments and comments of the room, are you putting citations in the document to say you reviewed the WCRP AI policy, that we had this happen, that we've seen this? Because imagine if some of us are no longer in the room and they're looking at the AI policy and they want to know what the foundation of it is. I think it's important to cite that you reviewed the gamut of things that are available. So I don't know if that's appropriate, but
It could be an appendix
Could
of
be.
all of the places you went to vet policy.
Yeah. I think that would be just nice information to lay alongside, but just a
Yeah.
comment.
And a lot of that stuff ends up being in the procedural document that sits alongside this.
Okay.
And alongside that is an inventory of the AI systems we use. Along with that is going to be a policy, or not a policy, but a procedure for our committee. So there's a lot of documents that coincide with this, and I'll add an appendix of
what references this came from. And
So you looked at Whatcom County, you mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
so
that's-
what's interesting is originally I had full document versioning. And it was towards the end of this and then started turning into a table that was almost a full sheet.
And I understand.
Because it was referencing all these different things and then it was like, how many iterations did we go through? Like probably 10 to 15 different iterations before you guys even saw the policy. And in those, each one was reviewing kind of from a different lens, from say risk assessment, from cybersecurity, from safety, from all these different lenses to bring us down to what we have here. But I'll work on an appendix that kind of goes with this.
I think it shows the depth of the
Yeah.
due diligence that the organization has taken to put this together. It also shows our alignment with local policy and other, thought leadership. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, I agree with Chair, but firmly.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I read a great article, which I passed on to our IT director, and I can find it if interested, on bias in the algorithms driving AI and how to identify it.
Bias is a big thing.
That's a big thing.
It was a really good article.
Yeah, and that's part of our evaluative process for the committee and any AI we use. Is to look at the bias and to see if there is bias weighting inside of that, because it's all predictive text based off of its input, so.
Try saying, are you sure, after it gives you a return of an answer, you'd be amazed if it finds it. Oh, you're right, I think I missed
Yeah.
this.
Well,
Or, "You're right,
Good point.
Yes, that's a good point.
To your point, ask that several times and you'll keep getting different answers.
Indeed.
So,
Thank you, Chris.
Good work, Fred. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, now it's time for our executive director report.
Okay. I'm gonna go through a few highlights. Just a reminder, our fall board retreat is on September 25th at the Elks Lodge in Oak Harbor. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll be reviewing phase 1 engagement of the long range plan with our consultants, Farron Pierce. And we will discuss policy around operating capital, fleet, and facility reserves. And now I'll probably add in emergency as well. Second, the Washington State Transit Association is holding its 50th annual conference in Tacoma, Washington next week. The event features a state rodeo competition, multiple workshops conducted by industry experts and state transportation officials. The event will be hosted by Pierce Transit. Our very own Chris Chidley, Information Systems Director, will be honored during the Wall of Fame banquet for ingenuity and enhancement of Island Transit's technology system. Very proud of your addition to our leadership team. Thank you. Finance Manager Brown will roll out the new 2027 budget module of our financial system to department directors this month. I will be meeting with all departments for zero-based budgeting. Budget workshops with department heads will be conducted throughout the process. Draft 1 of the budget will be presented to the board in October, followed by a second draft in November and adoption of the final draft in December. The budget will look very different this year because we are now working within our financial system of NetSuite, and they have a budget module. So we are really hopeful. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but we're hopeful that this will be a much cleaner, nice process. So
I'd like to point out that we would really, well, I'm speaking for the board and the people, sheriff, I think they do. Any kinds of salary changes, we would like to see them in advance.
sure. So you want to see the salary grid?
I do,
Yeah.
well, salary grid and what's gonna happen
Sure.
with salaries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you, so is it appropriate to ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, with
Yeah.
regard to Chairperson. Anyway, I strongly favor in general principle, zero-based budgeting. But I'm also mindful of the fact that it can be very labor intensive in order to get it right from the baseline, just starting from scratch for this. And I was going to say, the practice for the district with regard to zero-based budgeting is, does it apply to components or is it going to be comprehensively used? Or what's your thought on that? Or just observation about implementing?
Interesting that it was Paul who told me I was doing zero-based budgeting, because I just sat down with each person and we started from the beginning of the last budget that was adopted and looking at what the department needs were, what we were carrying over, and what new projects we had to budget for in the following.
But it's not an overload of extra work and labor to do zero-based.
No, but no, I mean, the labor intensiveness is my part.
Okay, but anyway, I praise y'all for doing it because it's really responsible. That's what it is. Thank you. We do too.
Okay, any other questions? I don't anticipate any changes as of yet.
Okay,
Outside of codes. So.
okay, yeah, good.
Okay, projects, tree farm, escrow has closed, the conservation easement has been removed. The long range plan will assist the agency in determining appropriate use for the project. So we're very happy that's gonna happen. Thank you, Meg, it was a huge help in that. So really helped me through that process. So. Okay.
So I
Yes,
don't want to leave the tree farm so quickly.
okay,
Just as a reminder, the conservation easement was for the portion of the property north of the operating base here, not the eastern portion of the property. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay. It also, so that means the whole thing has closed, right? And so those, what about the ancillary, the little triangles that are out there, are those now in the possession of, would the command
No,
land trust?
No,
They took
no,
money
they are
instead.
not.
They were,
We paid them, said, I think, so.
We own as far, man, sorry, we still own the triangle,
Yes,
right?
we do.
Yes. And I will mention that I was approached and asked if I wished to donate it. And I said no. So that's for consideration down the road. At this time, I was, the would-be Camino Land Trust was interested in us donating.
let's
that
donate it.
triangle.
If at any point it needs to be donated for easements for us to expand the highway, the bike lanes and so on, I would be in favor of that.
It just, at this point in time, it was not a priority for us. So if y'all folks all feel differently, please do let.
Did you just say y'all?
Yeah, I did, copy.
I know, thank you.
Okay,
You were
Bill,
talking to me for a moment.
Commissioner Johnson is not here, and I wanted to say the fuel building, Island County approved the permit in week 17 of it. So our invitation to bid has been transferred to Civic Initiatives, who will assist us with the procurement and solicitation process. That's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions? Other
So
questions?
there's
Yes.
significant news on the South Windy Transit Center.
Well, we're in the final stages of approval from the Federal Transit Administration to begin borings to determine the level of contamination on the site. The process and FTA review will likely take through the end of the year. So we
Just
still
that
don't
there's
have,
margins of anything you find.
pardon me,
Whatever you find in terms of any contamination, you have to clear the whole margins of the property of that contamination.
okay. Yeah. So,
I mean, we will find contamination, right? I
Yes.
mean, cars have parked there for decades, there will have to be.
well, and there's also.
That's why it's not moving as quickly as we'd like, because we're gonna have to remediate all of that.
Will we have to remediate that, or will we?
Well, we talked about this in a previous board meeting. I remember you asking me, and I remember Matt saying something about WashDOT owning the property. Do you recall that conversation?
Washington owns the property and the ferries lease it.
Correct.
What I
Do you recall, Matt?
I'm not picking up the context here.
Yeah,
So-
picking up what I'm putting in.
There's an old EPA law that at the transfer of any property, if there's any contamination found,
Oh, yeah, that's Modca, yeah, so yes, yeah.
the owner must remediate prior to transfer. Is that my understanding? correct?
No, the previous chain of command still has liability.
So,
So generally that cleanup part would be part of the contractual.
yes, that's
For
what
the
I
contractual
thought
on
to
the
be true.
first. So,
That's, yeah, how a lot of times that will be part of the purchase sale agreement, one of the contingencies.
Yeah,
as long as we're going there, let's talk about the flashing signal. So Legal and WashDOT have agreed, well, I mean, I didn't have that particular project highlighted, but I think this one is
I like
really,
this one.
really important. Legal and WashDOT have agreed to the terms for the maintenance and operating agreement. They agreed with all of the changes now that you wanted to make. So it's been submitted to the AG's office. At some point, we may need to call them. If I recall my last experience coming in. However, design is close to 100%, will be routed for review. This was my update as of yesterday, and Joshua was gonna be having a meeting with supervisors to get further updates for me, so I would have an estimated time of arrival. Solar panels and batteries take about 3 weeks to arrive. Foundations, poles, and signs will be completed in-house by WashDOT, and I'll have a target date for installation by the next board. So. Last I heard, they said after World Cup, but now zeroing in, I.
Which World Cup?
They didn't say what year.
Yeah. Good point.
Okay,
Okay,
Well-
thank you.
thank you. Administrative and Human Resources Director report, our Terrence Ellison, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank-
Let's see, right now, we're doing really well with staffing. Camino will be at 18. After new trainees that start on the 18th complete. Coopville has 59 operators and will be at 61 after trainees on the 18th begin. So we're doing really good, with operators. We currently have 73 certified operators that are all out of training. Next one. We have 3 operators currently in training, and Camino has 1 trainee beginning on the 18th, and Cookville have 2 trainees beginning on the 18th, which would get into the aforementioned numbers. And as you can see, we're holding steady, actually going up a little bit. There's no decline. We're not having a mass exodus or constant churn of operators. So we're happy about that.
So I just want to make a comment. It's so reassuring to see this slide each month and to note that we don't have a negative trend.
There's a lot of stability there.
No, we're working hard to keep it that way and yeah, and the numbers reflect that. Excellent. We did have 2 exits in the month of July. And again, if you guys want more information on that, talk to the executive director after this. Any questions whatsoever?
Quick comment. Good on you and in your department or your division with regard to the efficiencies of getting the hires and keeping them. Because it's a tremendous cost whenever there's the churn. So thank you for that.
We're also trying to get them in faster, to streamline our process to get operators in the whole onboarding faster.
So Terrence, how many more operators do we need to have to feel that we are fully staffed?
And if we get to 61 and we have 2 trainees starting on 18 for Whitby. if those two complete and everything's good, we're at 61. Right now, we're allotted 63. Camino would be full. After their operator complete, so really, we just, yeah, 2 more.
Does anybody know in the room when the last time we were full with operators?
Never.
I mean, that's an astounding thing to hear that we would actually be fully operated.
And if I could just say one thing, the quality of the candidates that we're getting is amazing too, just so you know that.
That's
That's why
great.
they're coming and staying. The people we've been hiring are amazing.
Thank you for letting us know that.
Yeah. That's great to hear.
Thank you, Terrence. Okay, our next update, planning and outreach director report, Brad Wendler. Fancy in a suit today.
Yes, our opening slide here is, I'd like to remind everyone that our data is a month in arrears from what Terrence just presented. Real quickly, the horizontal line is the number that we need to meet our bids. The green and the blue are the number of operators that we have, so the number of operators we have exceeds the bids that are required, the full-time bids. So we are in good shape as of the end of June 30th. Next slide. Ridership is again accelerating over 2025. We are up almost 10% over the June of last year, which is another positive for us. Next slide, please. Our rides per mile, per revenue mile, our efficiency measure here again shows that we are headed in the right direction. We are being more efficient this year than we have been last year, and that has been consistent throughout the year. So we're really looking forward for that trend continuing. Next slide, please. As of June 30th, we are halfway through the year. This slide monitors 2026 comparing to 2025. If you look at our miles, we operated 1.2 million miles in the first 6 months. And all of last year, we were just under 2.5 million miles. So we're right on. We're very close year to year, exactly where you would expect us to be halfway through the year. And very similar for our revenue hours as well. There can be a little bit of variation because this also includes paratransit, which is on demand, and that changes from year to year. So it's not just fixed route service. Next slide, please. So this is a new slide for us. Last month, some feedback from the board was on the cost per trip slide, because it was hard to compare 2025 being grouped together in 2026. We were asked last month to take a crack at a different way of displaying data. And I actually have some options for you here. So this is overall, if you take our routes and going left to right, it's each individual route comparing 2025 versus 2026. There are the NASB routes that did not exist last year, so they only have 2026 showing up. But this allows us to take each route, compare them right next to each other, see how our efficiencies are doing. But when I looked at this first, having all of them on one page seemed to be a lot of information, and the font had to be really, really small. So next slide, please. I didn't know if the board in the future would prefer to see them by island instead of all together. That really made them look larger. This is Whidbey, which has more routes, but you can see the font's a little easier to read. All the numbers are a little easier to read. I thought the board might appreciate this viewpoint rather than having them all stuffed on the one page. And then next slide is Camino, which is even easier. And so there we go. So this, barring objections or comments, I'll do island by island. I kind of see heads nodding. Yes, next one. Okay. And then our last slide is our on-time performance. 2025, we did 91.24% on time. 2026 through the first half of the year, we're at 91.04. So we're very much mirroring our performance of being on time and maintaining a very high quality and level of service. So with that, pending your questions, my report is complete.
My only comment, Brad, is I don't, when we first brought this out, I remember I had a lot of comments and things I wanted changed. I don't remember what they were anymore, but I'm happy with this report, so you must have done it right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
So changes you made.
Try to make little things as we go along here and adjust them month to month.
Sure, but. I agree with the reformatting is excellent, and I also wanted to make mention that. Because it's not you in particular, it has to deal with constituents, but I deal with constituents, so anytime of the reporting of increased efficiencies and this kind of, I mean, we can't really determine, the conditions of the market for transit. But I'm just stating to you, it strengthens my position to fight for the transit district with my constituents when we have these things with improved efficiency. Thank you.
I can assure you, he deals with our constituents. I would say, I mean, again, from a historical point of view, we had, I mean, nothing like this 6 years ago when I joined. So then to have confidence, we have confidence in these numbers, right? So we have this board has a very clear, seems to have a very clear view of what's happening on our vehicles. So that's fantastic.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
So, sorry. I just wanna, I'm gonna be a little protective or mama bear. When you look at the Camino numbers, some of our main routes have seen some increases, correct?
Correct.
And I'm gonna defend those because of scale, right? It is harder for scalability. I just don't want somebody new coming in and looking at those and saying, well, we should just cut the 411, which is, right, the only route that gets them to where they need to go on the main one. So I just think that as we disaggregate the data, it's important that you remember that disaggregated data has different sample size skews. So that I can be a mother bear about the Camino.
I think also for Camino Island, we were doing on demand.
In 2024, 2025.
Okay.
Something you'll hear us speak about in long range transit plan, and I'll just give you this nugget so you have something to look forward to. The prioritization exercise that came out in our needs assessment memo is that coverage is first. So as we go forward and we start looking at key performance indicators, one of the discussions we'll be having in September is how do we make sure that performance measures like that don't override the fact that people are asking for coverage to be our priority. Because sometimes you're going to do things that are less than efficient because you're meeting coverage, which is what people are asking us to provide. So, with that little nugget to kind of get your imagination going, I'm gonna leave.
Okay, thank you. Other business.
Yes. We should talk about the board meeting schedule in the fall. Well, so, I think there's a quorum issue. Do we have a quorum?
Yeah, I have that. I have a note to bring that up.
Now, or do you want to do it later?
No, I can bring it up now. I just was trying to see if other members of the board had additional items. Yeah, we do have a concern for a quorum on the 10-9 meeting because we have 1, 2, 3 people that will be out. And we've got our first budget draft. So
Just as a reminder, we voted, I want to say back in July, the board voted to move the October meeting from the 2nd to the 9th because of the 5-week process. And so I believe we have 3 folks out, and I just wanted to say we have our first draft of the budget. And then policies, all of our updated policies need to be in effect by the 1st of October. This is what I've told the auditors because it's been a year in coming. So I don't know if we want to take a poll here of who's going to be here in October, but if I recall, I've got 3 people, James.
I can speak to that. Well, I can speak to I've got the Law Enforcement Officers Disability Board. It falls on the 2nd Friday of the month, normally quarterly. So whenever there's a shift for our meeting to the 2nd Friday, then and it falls on the quarterly, then there's a conflict of schedule. But we have, I mean, it's a very small group and I have to be at those, so.
Okay.
On the 9th is one of those,
Okay,
so.
and were you gonna be going?
No, can I just ask you to round robin, just go around and say who will be here on this?
Yeah.
On the 9th.
I will be here on the 2nd and the 9th.
Okay, I'll be here on the 2nd.
I will be here on the night.
I'll be here on.
I'm here on the night.
I probably can't be here on the 9th.
And we may have four.
Okay,
Maybe we don't have an issue.
perfect.
Okay.
Well, do we know about Jill?
We don't, but
That
if-
We have a quorum.
Well, if you're not here and he's not here and Jill isn't here, do we have a quorum?
Well, we talked about
When we talked
Jill
about-
is gonna be here.
Yeah, we talked about moving it to the 9th. She'll confirm she's
Okay.
going to be here.
Okay.
That's why we chose that date. So.
And you're okay on the 9th, Commissioner?
I am.
Okay.
I'll be with you
Check
this
November.
That's it.
I prefer the 9th, but that's just because I'm flying home from New York on.
What's your first thing you have about November?
Just, I'm just wondering, the quorum in November.
we haven't moved that meeting, so
Okay.
I don't think there was.
The commissioners are usually around the first week and a half or 2 weeks of November. It's the end of November. We have all this other stuff happening in the last half.
Okay. Other business, other board comments?
I have 2 comments. My first comment is an apology to everybody in this room, but particular people on this half of the room. So this is a personal thing. So I have a new cologne and I love it and it makes me happy. And in a closed room like this, it's pretty overpowering. So if anybody's been having a hard time breathing, I want to apologize to you.
I'm the closest, I have no issue.
Yeah. You're okay? Okay, thank you, thank you. I'm trying to think, how do I do this in a sensitive way? So, okay. And so my second one though has to do with the written public comments that we received. And I guess it's a question to you, Matt. Both public comments that we received in the packet are anonymous to us. And I want to know what the requirement is regarding accepting anonymous public comments. My opinion is when I receive an anonymous public comment that says, you're a stupid idiot, I ignore that in an anonymous public comment. If it has a name attached to it and I think, oh yeah, that's the mayor of Oak Harbor or whatever. He's never said that to me.
I mean, Bonnie, you said that.
My goodness.
So what is our requirement with regards to that? Both of them are anonymous in here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any legal requirements, more of a law, I guess. Just filtering it's.
Well, did we collect the name or we did not?
It's a public record, so we have to accept. the
Yeah,
comments
it's-
that are
and I guess my-
What we.
My
as board
general
members-
is that if it comes in, we want to be transparent and get it to you,
Well, it's a public record once
I-
it's on our website.
it is.
Thank you for bringing this up. I support, I have it written here. I was gonna ask you exactly the same thing. My suggestion is, if someone's willing to put their name with their comment, or they include their name with the comment that they submit, then we can put that in the board packet. If they don't put their name, then it still remains accessible to the public or board members outside of this, but anonymous comments, it's hard to pay attention to them.
And it would be nice to say on the community engagement website, Celine, that we encourage you to identify yourself by name, but it's not required. Neither is it required when we do it, when people come.
It's not required, can't require when someone comes to a meeting.
And not your address, I don't like to require address, but to require where you're from. So if you're from, if you're from Oak Harbor, if you're from Langley. I think it would be nice to have something on that page,
Let's look into that, we'll circle that, but
but you can't require it. I know that. to
you
be
cannot
true.
require it.
Actually,
My understanding it came via email, so there's an email address.
But even a lot of
But-
those, you can't discern.
Yeah, my personal email is.
Right,
Neptune
okay,
Flat.
I was just,
You're not gonna know who that.
I know, mine's Amaru, so,
Yeah.
okay, I just want to make sure that wasn't considered. I got it.
There, thank you, Celine.
yes, I have several comments. First of all, the LIP Langley Infrastructure Project is finally coming in for a soft landing. That might change the Route 60. I don't know exactly what planning is planning to do about that, but just, FYI.
operations.
What's that?
Operations handles the detours.
Okay. The TDP. Way to go on the beginning and the end balances. That's very helpful. The finance, report, very helpful. There's one thing I asked for, and it may have been misinterpreted, that on the third page of it, there is a 12-month starting on December 25th. Calendar here, a reporting calendar, and what I'd like to see is in this month's report, I'd like to see June of 2025 be the first month. Or I guess it'd be July 2025, because whatever, 12 months from the most recent.
I'm sorry, which page?
This,
Oh, finance.
finance report,
What page? Sorry, Craig.
page 3. Operating capital, cash receipts and disbursements to show what's happened over the last 12 months. So for example, we're reporting June dated here, 2026. I'd like that to be on the far right and June of 2025 to be on the far left, the starting point of the chart.
Why do you?
Because that way we can look and just see, is there a big difference between the 2 months? So between June 26 and June 25. Also, it was happening previously.
Yeah, the intent here is to show the trend month over month for 2026, but definitely we can compare last year June versus this year June.
And Melanie, that was the change in the
I can barely hear you. Let's talk afterwards. Thank you. The Island Transit Mission, are we planning to talk about that? I think at one point we were saying in the long range planning meeting, we would have a discussion about the mission of Island Transit.
Is that slated for the 2-hour conversation?
No.
I think what I had said at the time, Craig, was we would look at the vision and mission statement during the board retreat. Since that time, it's become really important to do the reserve policies. Maybe we can fit both in.
Could we add some time to the,
It depends on board's availability
I mean, it seems like
and the
the perfect time
availability
to
of the
talk about
venue.
it.
I'm not sure.
It's 4 hours right now, essentially.
I would favor extending it just to get this business taken care
I'm
of, so,
fine with 5 hours.
you know, well,
Yeah.
what, you know.
Okay.
Go do whatever we need to.
Okay, we will check in with the venue and see if we.
5 hours is good. Remember that if you add, that makes another hour, that makes a 9 to 10 hour day for me.
Yeah.
So
But you're okay
please
with
keep
5?
it to 5 hours. And that means Chair Bright, you need to facilitate it.
I will do that.
You need something.
We can send the language out in advance if people wanna do it.
So, and my final comment is, and I can understand why, Chris is being, honored at the, annual, conference. I've been asking for the solar monitoring panel out there to be live and reporting data. And to my very great pleasure, it is this month, and it's been dark for at least 2 years, if not 2.5 or 3 years.
There was no cord.
What's that?
There was no cord.
Pardon?
There was no cord. It was not plugged in.
Well, I think there's,
But I don't want to take away from Chris.
I think.
Sorry, Chris, I should have thought of myself before I said that.
things, no cord and the website wasn't programmed in.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say also that what's being presented out there, and if I encourage everybody in this room to go take a look. What's being presented out there is way better than on the first month of the installation of our solar panels. Because what you have a cumulative, how many megawatt hours we've produced, which by the way, is 495 megawatt hours of electricity since 2022. And you guys can use AI to figure out how many homes that powers, but it's just so great to be able to see that, because there have been questions. In fact, staff members are questioning, are these solar panels, working? That was a question a year ago. Yes, they are. And you can go out there and look today and you can see the power curve today. It's a great curve because today is clear. So, this agency should be proud of that. we are producing our own power. We can produce a lot more power. And I hope we will, but I'm glad to see that.
Any other comments? I just had a quick comment myself. It's how we react in chaos a lot of times is a testament to how an organization runs. And I feel it's important to catch people doing things right. Last Friday, I received a call that someone had gotten off the ferry coming into Clinton and the bus was not there. And so apparently there was a breakdown and there was a bus replacement that was being sent. And y'all handled that naturally. Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Melinda, for responding to me when the public reached out to me. However, right about that time, there was a medical emergency. And so both air life flights were off the island and they needed to take an individual to Harborview and they did it on an empty boat. So there was a 3-boat wait over on the Mukilteo side and who knows on our side. But in the midst of this, as these people were sitting and waiting for their ride, Troy Fillmore, who was the Clinton connector, stopped and took the time to address each of the people that were waiting and let them know that a bus was on the way. And really, we had one woman who was visiting from, it was either North or South Carolina, and only had a short period of time to walk on, see a little bit of Whidbey Island, and then go back. And then there was another couple that were trying to get to Coopville and they wanted to do a walking trip for the afternoon. So all of this said, the driver that finally was able to come and pick them up after going through all the traffic and the crazy because of the medical emergency was Dan. Oh, and Troy, I believe, did that twice. Checked in and then checked on the people that were waiting. And then Daniel Ashcroft was the replacement driver, Liz, and apologized to everyone, asked each person as they got on the bus where their destination was. The woman who was from North Carolina or South Carolina, I can't remember, but she did say y'all. She said, I now need to go somewhere close. So they figured out that Freeland would be the right place. She wanted to have something to eat. He made a recommendation. He told her about the antique stores. He dropped her off, made sure that she knew where to walk, where to go, and where to go when she needed to get back on the bus to return across the ferry. Likewise, he talked to all the people as they were coming down the island, made comments to them about what they were seeing. When he got to Coopville, he got off the bus, pointed down the way, all the way down towards Main Street, where they could go to the water, showed them exactly where to cross on the roundy round thing that goes over the top, got on the bus, and then took everybody else to their destinations.
All the whales to show up.
I want to commend you and I want to commend the team. I know it is a team effort when things like that happen that are unexpected. And then people coming off the island as well as people that were returning home on the island to have that level of experience, I think it's extraordinary. And so the person that called me actually lives on the island, called me again afterwards and said, I need to tell you what happened. And I thought, okay, Grace. And then to hear this glorious story about how you all handled it.
Thank
So
you for
I just
sharing.
wanted you to know that. So
And, you know, Liz, Stephanie, I think this would be a great thing to do a recognition during our all parents meeting in September and repeat the story as an example to all of us. So that's great. Thank you for sharing.
Chair Bright, may I speak to the business side of that piece?
Sure.
And that is, the personalized touch pays extraordinary dividends with regard to, voice and communication between potential constituents, passengers, clients, whatever you would describe them as. And so that needs to be emphasized in the strongest way, because as we say in business, it might take months or years to get a client customer. But it only takes one bad experience or a few sharp words and you lose them. And we're trying to build up our ridership, and this is exactly the kind of thing that will do that. Thank you.
just wanted to share and just thank you for all that you did.
Actually, if you could, Celine, if your group could do a little story about it and send it over to the paper, I think that's a nice story. My opinion.
Or,
Yeah.
oh,
I'm not
Yeah,
correcting
no,
your staff, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Thank you.
Okay, with that, if there are no other board member comments or other business, we are gonna move into an executive session to review the performance of a public employee. RCW 42.30.1101B. No action will be taken and we will be coming back into the meeting for the purpose of adjourning.
Yeah, what time after we?
I'll be right back.
I might-
5 minutes.
So 11:22.
Okay, perfect.
Sure, Brian, I love.
No,
That's the way, you're already all set up, aren't you?
But you wanna go this way.
The public,
Your bus is that way.
we promise.
They already called and they already are.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, great.
But
Yeah.
thank you very
They made
much.
it.
That's not. well,
Can you set that for help? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. It's a little bit rough, right?
Can you ask us what the gates and is it? Okay, when I said their names correct. That's who I have.
Yeah.
Now.
Annie, are we off recording?
We are off now.
Greetings, everyone. We are back from executive session. No action was taken, and if there are no further comments or questions, we will adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.